Welcome into week 3 of the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. I am John Walk, sports reporter with LNP Lancaster Online, along with colleagues Mike Gross and Jeff Reinhardt. Gentlemen, 2 weeks in, 2 weeks down on the week 3. We got a couple trophy games coming up this week. One of them being Lampeter Strasburg at Conestoga Valley for the Lampeter Bowl trophy. With that in mind, Jeff, you were out at Conestoga Valley earlier this week. What's going on with the Buckskins?
Went back to the old stomping grounds over at Conestoga Valley. It's the Lampeter Bowl, the 11th edition. LS leads 8-2. CB won the first one, and then CB won like 2 or 3 years ago, I want to say. But here's the weird story about the Lampeter Bowl. This is going to be the last one, because next year when Berks comes in, LS and CB go to different sections, and when they put their non-league schedule together, they didn't jive on a date because they didn't have the same bye week. So this is going to be it.
Well, it might not be it. It's it for now.
For a while, for at least 2 years.
At least 2 years.
They're going to scrimmage in August. That's going to be the scrimmage. So I don't know if it'll be the Lampeter Bowl scrimmage or what they're going to do with it.
Maybe have a mini trophy.
A mini trophy. I don't know what they're going to do. But for now, this will be the 11th Lampeter Bowl. So we went over to Conestoga Valley this week. Bucks coming off a big win against Garden Spot, trailing by 9 at the half. They pop an onside kick to open the third.
Wow.
They opened up a can and ended up winning by 15. Down 9 to winning by 15. That's pretty good. So we talked to Nick Tran, had 178 yards and 3 touchdowns, running back. And we talked to Jael Plowden, who had 8 catches for 201 yards.
Excellent player.
Third most. He's really good. Third most receiving yards in a game in CB history.
Wow.
About the receivers that have come through there.
Yeah, they keep those numbers too.
Think about some of those. That's a good. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The 2 guys in front of him are Eric Espenshade and, oh man, I forget the other one. It might have been Ty Bynum. Another
how about Corey Jones and
Daniel.
Darryl Daniels,
Jones, who was a first-team All-American wide receiver.
Yeah, Barbone, who's at Temple, on and on and on. So we talked to those guys, and we talked to Coach Jared Novak. All things Lampeter Bowl. LS at CB on Friday night. Let's throw it to those interviews. Take it away.
Give me an update of where you're at after 2 weeks. Tough loss in week 1, couldn't hold a lead in the 4th. Great win in week 2. Come back from a halftime deficit and beat Garden Spot. Where's your team after 2 weeks?
I think we're in a good position for the future games coming up to LS. We just got to execute. That's really it. We just got to keep on executing. The first game we had trouble, but the next game we did a great job in the second half.
So when Coach calls onside kick to start the second half against Garden Spot, what kind of reaction did that draw?
I was a little confused, but we planned it a little bit, and I was like, I was happy to see it happen.
Okay, to get a great come-from-behind win in week 2 against Garden Spot, what kind of momentum are you hoping to carry off of that game, just the way you came back? I would think there's a lot of mo going into this week.
Yeah, it's a good start for us. You know, in the second week, we made some improvements, which is what we needed to do from week 1. We did not play very well. And we needed momentum, you know, especially for this game. Lampeter Bowl, LS is, you know, a rival game right next door. Most of our kids know one another. So this is a huge game, and that was important for us to come back. You know, we've been stressing that since I took over the program, trying to change their mindset in terms of winning games. And every time you fall behind by a few points, you can't think that you're going to lose the game. And the kids brought that attitude, and they came back. And, you know, everybody asked me what I say at halftime. I said, by the time I get in there, Coach Swift was done talking. I had about 2 minutes. All I did was say to the guys, let's go. You're not out of the game. We got another half to play. Go out and execute, and we win the game. And they did. And that was the difference.
LS is coming off a shutout against the team you already played. They beat Penn Manor 31-0 last week. Yep. So their defense obviously is playing well. Mm-hmm. How do you attack a team like that, knowing that their defense is hot?
We're a different team now. The first week, we weren't on our game. We came in too cocky, thinking we were going to win, and I feel like we deserved that loss because that woke us up. So I feel like LS shouldn't sleep on us now because we're a different squad. And Coach already, he got in our head. I feel like we're in we're intact now.
They're physical. They're big. They've got some skilled kids that can run with the ball in the backfield. The quarterback is an excellent runner, and hopefully we can put him in more predictable situations on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, I think it's going to come down to number 12. If he executes and sees the coverages and what they're doing and can get JP the ball and we can get Nick the ball in the offense running the ball, I think we'll be okay. I think our offensive line understands how to block the stack. I feel very comfortable about it. In years past, not so much. But, with Aaron Basil on staff now as our line coach, kids are doing a great job, and hopefully we can go out Friday night and get it done.
All right, and welcome back from CV. Good job out there, Jeffrey. Yeah, and this is the part of the show where we're going to break down about 5 or 6 games coming up here, and then we'll do the pick'ems for the remaining games. So with that in mind, let's kind of go nuts and bolts here. Lampeter Strasburg at Conestoga Valley, Lampeter Trophy Bowl. You already went over the history of the trophy there. And yeah, Nick Tran coming off a big week, McCoy Neasley coming off a big week, J.L. Plowden coming off a big week for LS. Berkeley Wagner, one of the leading rushers from last week across the LL League, the quarterback for Lampeter Strasburg, 9 carries, 89 yards, 1 touchdown. And LS kind of had that question mark of a game week 1 with Warwick, and then they answered back strong. In week 2, they take down Penn Manor 31-0. CV kind of took a little, 6 quarters to get going there at the start of the year, and then these last 2 quarters obviously did well at Garden Spot. So what do we make of this one?
I really like the skill position players from CV. You'd mentioned the wide receiver, the running back. I think they also have a quarterback. This is a really good matchup. I think I don't have any good sense, and I'm even basing what I just said on last year mostly when I saw him play last year. This is a tough one. I picked LS, but I don't feel real confident about it.
Really, let's mention CV skill kid's really good. I mean, Plowden can play. I mean, he is a sleek wideout. He told me he got an offer this week. He forgot who it was off the top of his head. He was going to tweet it. It was somebody in Missouri, Central Missouri, or somebody. But he got his first offer.
It might have been just some dude in Missouri.
I don't know, but it was official. He got it. He did get an offer, so he's first offer off the board for Plowden. He's really good. I think LS found itself, and I saw their first game against Warwick, and Warwick kind of beat them up top a lot and scored 45 points. I thought LS really found itself, and they kind of got their line where it needs to be. And Del Grande had a big game last week defensively. Coin toss, flip them, coin toss kind of a game here. This is really tough, but I have LS circled. I think they're going to be a little tougher up front and a little tougher defensively. Coming off a shutout, their defense is playing really well, and their D-backs are good. Hunter Hildebrand is a name to watch this week. He's been really good in the secondary, so this could be close. Throw out all the records when the Lampeter Bowl is on the line. But I'll go LS begrudgingly, but I think that's a good game. I'll take the Pioneers.
I will take the Pioneers as well. So we're going LS across the board. Another trophy game coming up this Friday. Warwick at Ephrata for the George Mayle Trophy. Just some history background on that trophy. These teams are set to square off for the 91st time. The Warriors own a 46, 38, and 6 lead in the series, including the last 14 victories in a row. By the way, Ephrata comes into this game at 2-0 for the first time since 2000. They're coming off a 28-7 win over Palmyra, and Warwick is 1-1 overall. They're coming off a 28-21 loss to CD East, a really good CD East team. By the way, I guess we should probably mention that we have to keep an eye on the health of Warwick quarterback Jack Reed. Correct, Jeffrey? He left last week's game in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, and incredibly here, I've seen both of Warwick's games. I saw the LS game in week 1 on Saturday, and then I covered them Thursday. They've played Saturday and Thursday so far. That's kind of weird. Yeah, Reed limped off late 4th. Evans had to come in to play quarterback on their last gasp drive. Reed was kind of hobbling after the game, no crutches or anything, but we'll see if he goes. Warwick should have won the game last week. Flat out should have won. They were up 21-14 at the half, but it felt like 38-14. They were moving the ball and just playing really well. and East scored on a pick six on a deflection, but their offense was going nowhere. And CD East quarterback ended up getting hurt, and the backup kid came in and went bananas, throwing passes to Mekhi Flowers and keepers and everything. And CD East got the late score and won. So I think Warwick is like this close from being 2-0. Ephrata, 14 years in a row, Warwick's won this, but this will be by far the best Ephrata team in 14 years that Warwick is going to face, I think. Mounts are playing great, 2-0. Andre Weidman's been the story. He's at 306 rushing with 6 touchdowns.
Wow.
So Warwick must stop Mr. Weidman.
He also returned a 86-yard kickoff for a score last week. So
Hey,
there's that.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I'm taking Warwick in this one just for those many reasons that you just said. They had that big week 1 win over LS. They proved that they can hold their own against a really good CD East team that possibly almost beat them. And to start off hot like that, or after all the pieces that they lost, kind of says something to me that this group is kind of out to prove. We may be a lot of new names, but I think we can kind of keep the tradition going here at Warwick. So I like the Warriors in this one.
I like Warwick a little. I think this is a really tough call. There's a lot of right now that there's a lot of dynamic in our league. There's a couple of teams that feel like they're having their year. Like Effort is one of those that they've been building toward this a little bit against strong programs, traditionally strong programs who we don't know what to think about. I mean, last week I felt like, just going by the scores and the box score, last week was a tough week for our league. I thought it was soberingly so. And I really don't have much insight into most of these games coming off of that. I feel like we know less now than we did a week ago. But I'm going to take Warwick, and I think this is a really good game, a really even matchup. I'm going to take Warwick.
Yeah, it does feel like a lot of the teams that we saw in week 1 were completely different teams in week 2. Teams that won big lost, and teams that lost won big the next week, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I got Warwick circled. I think they're going to have a little too much up front, and they've McClune and Royer have been really good at linebacker. Those guys have been making a ton of tackles. So I'll go Warwick. I think there's only 5 teams that are undefeated. 4: Central, Crest.
Well, not only that, but the teams that we thought were going to be pretty good have gone out of the league and lost last week. There was about 5 of those that really where I would have expected us to go 3-2 at the worst, and we went 0-5 and got slapped around a couple times. So I mean, it's 1 week, but I'm kind of baffled by most of this right now.
A little bit.
Hey, if this is the 91st time they're playing, either of you know the year that the first matchup of this happened?
Wow.
I mean, is it every year, or is it just is this also including like playoff matchups, or I don't know, holiday games? And
that's a good question.
They didn't play last year because of COVID.
Are we going pre-1950s here?
Well, it's got to be. Yeah, I mean.
Well,
that'd be interesting to go back and see how it started and all that.
Yeah, I've never dug that deep. I've just kind of the record 1 year, and just updating it every year when they play.
Of course. All right, so we're all taking Warwick here, but we do like Ephrata's 2-0 start. Moving on, Hempfield at Central York. The Black Knights coming in at 1-1 overall, coming off a 14-0 loss to a really good Manheim Central team, and Central York comes in at 2-0. They're coming off a 21-3 win over Cumberland Valley, and oh, by the way, Panthers have a really good quarterback, correct, Mike Gross?
That is, it's that Bo Pribula, who is a Penn State commit. He's one of 2 quarterbacks in this very highly regarded class of 22. He's probably the better runner of the 2, even though the other one, a kid named Aller from Ohio, is a really highly recruited, super blue chip kind of guy. So yeah, he's a weapon. He is a weapon.
Yeah, he's at 501 passing yards with 6 touchdowns already in 2 games. Wow. He threw for like 330 and 4 touchdowns against Exeter in week 1. Oh, by the way, Central York coach is Mike. You know this guy.
That would be that Jerry Yonchik.
Yep.
Of Air Raid Offense and Lebanon Cedars fame. They were as dominant maybe as any team in the state up to the state final last year.
Yeah.
When they played St. Joe's Prep, which is not a real high school, so that doesn't count. But I don't think they're quite as good. I don't think they're quite as they're not as dominant as, I mean, last year was just one blowout after another, all the way to the state final. So they're not. So I think this is again, this is not an obvious call either way. I don't think.
No, they barely won their 2 games. I hate to say that. They beat Exeter by 7.
Yeah, and Exeter must be pretty good.
Yeah, and Exeter has Wilson this week, and then they
That
beat.
game was very close. Yeah.
Yeah, then they beat Cumberland Valley 21-3, a week after Cumberland Valley got boat raced by Manheim Central.
Yeah, Cumberland Valley's not Cumberland Valley right now.
Exactly. I have Central York circled. I saw Hempfield Central last week. Hempfield got shut out. You know, they didn't hit the end zone.
What did you make of their defensive effort against Central, though? I mean, to hold Bad Barons to only 14 points, that's going to be impressive.
Amazing. 2 picks. First thing George Ager said after the game, he said, our defense played well enough for us to win this game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you hold, and I asked him point blank, I said, if I would have told you 3 hours ago that you'd hold them to 14, ... And he said, oh, we would have won.
Because after week one, we talked a lot about Judd Novak and Owen Sensenig, and I thought they did a good job keeping a relatively good job of kind of keeping somewhat of a lid on them, and that's worth noting going into a Central York game against a Penn State commit quarterback.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I'll take the Panthers.
Me too. I agree. I just think, I'm sure that Hempfield's defense is legitimate, but Prabula is just an athlete who can create. So if it's not there, just running the offense, he can create, and he's pretty elite. He'll be a handful. So it's a tough call, but I like Central York.
Yeah, I'll go Central York, but I do not think it'll be blowout city.
No, I don't either.
Uh-huh.
All right. Moving on, Manheim Township 1-1 going to Central Dauphin 1-1. This game is on Saturday in Harrisburg at Landis Field. This was another result from last Friday that kind of was a head scratcher for me. We know Manheim Township has kind of been a Class 6A powerhouse these last half dozen seasons or so, and to go to Dallastown and lose 41-38 was a relative shocker to me, just because Dallastown has kind of been a middling to struggling program over these last many years, but perhaps they found some mojo there. And we'll talk about that game a little bit more here further. Central Dolphins coming off a 41-22 win over a Berks Catholic team that we know has, traditionally been pretty good in the past. And by the way, Central Dauphin also had a week 1 loss at Wilson, 27-21. So if there's any kind of comparison there, I guess there's kind of that one to make. I have Central Dolphins circled here. I don't feel good about it. I feel like Township might come back from that Dallastown game kind of fired up. And it's a Saturday, so that's an extra day of rest, so you never know. What do you guys make of it?
I like Central Dauphin a little, and I think you explained it pretty well, John, as far as the sort of dynamic of this game. When I was talking a couple minutes ago about last week being kind of sobering, I think Township was sort of exhibit A of that. That really surprised me, and I don't think Central Dauphin is one of their best teams, but I like them a little. This is a theme this week.
Yeah, I said last week that Anthony Ivy was going to have a breakout game against Dallastown. 9 catches, 170 yards, and a touchdown. So,
right.
Yeah.
But the main thing there, the Township defense gives up 41 points and 452 yards, which they haven't done in quite a long time.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of Township just yet, and I'm going to cover this game, so I'll get an up-close and personal look here at the streaks. But I have CD circled. CD is one. I think CD is 12-3 against Township in the series dating back to 2010, including playoffs. Township's won 2 of the last 3. CD won like 9 in a row early in the series. Nothing would surprise me in this game. The Hayden Johnson quarterback kid for Township had his breakout game, 280 and 2 touchdowns last week. But I have CD at home. And this is going to be like 21-20 or 28-27, I have a feeling.
Yeah, these teams have a lot of history, these two. They
do.
And it's mostly been very close games, yeah.
All of them. Yeah, the last time they played, it was 10-7 Township. So it's this will be a nail biter, fourth quarter kind of a game. But I'm going to go Rams.
All right, so we're going Central Dauphin across the board. Neither of us really feel that great about it. All right, Cedar Crest. This is a matchup coming up here of a pair of 2-0 teams. Cedar Crest going to Carlisle. Carlisle's coming off a 49-0 win over Hershey. Cedar Crest coming off a 52-14 win over Gettysburg. And Jay Huber had a big game in that. I don't know. Mike, you're the Cedar Crest alum. Whoever wants to take the lead and kind of recap what Jay Huber did last week, it's worth noting.
I think he completed 10 of 20 for 200 and some yards. So the first number I always look at for a quarterback in the passing game is yards per attempt. That's 10 yards per attempt. That's elite. He's been really good, and their receivers have been good, and they have a couple of running backs, not just Aiden Richards. They're a little bit of a surprise to me, the old alma mater here. I think Gettysburg has been a solid program for a little while now, and to smack them around the way they did, that surprised me and impressed me a little bit. That was, I think that was the biggest positive eye opener of last week. I think was what the Falcons were able to do. I kind of look at the consensus of the people who cover the Mid-Penn. I don't think a lot of people saw Carlisle as a power in that conference going in. I was looking back on that a little bit today, and so maybe I'm being a homer, but I'm picking the Falcons.
Ooh,
Yeah.
All right.
My two favorite Cedar Crest stats of the week. Here we go. The top rated passer efficiency rating quarterback in the LL League is Jay Huber. There you go. And one team in the LL League through 2 weeks is averaging 400 yards or more a game. Cedar Crest at 411. And that's it. They're the only team with 400 or more yards a game. So their offense has been crisp. I think he has 1 pick and 6 touchdowns. Nolan Groff's been catching passes, and Heisey's been catching passes, and Richards has been really good. And I have Carlisle circled. So,
well, I mean, 49-0 last week. I mean, we don't know whether Cedar Crest is going to be able to match up with the very best teams in their schedule on the line of scrimmage. But if they execute as well as they have so far, if they're as precise as they've been so far, with the skilled people they have, and apparently the quarterback they have, they got a chance. They got a chance.
They're going to be tricky. I have no idea why I circled Carlisle. Probably because they're at home and they're playing well and their quarterback is real good. And I have no clue, which means Crest will probably win 47-7.
These teams have been about equally impressive through 2 games, right?
Yeah.
And Carlisle's at home, so it's not crazy to pick Carlisle.
Crest has outscored their opponents 90-14.
That's pretty
just
good.
Looking at the schedule coming up, Crest has Governor Mifflin next week. So I was going to say maybe Carlisle's a prove-it game, but they have a prove-it game coming up next week.
Prove-it game. Right. That's another level of prove-it, yeah.
But hey, let's focus on this Friday. Yeah, I have Carlisle circled. I don't feel great about it. All right, that does it for the breaking down section of the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College Technology. Let's get to the pick'ems because we have a lot of games here. We don't have all the time in the world to break each one down. We'll start with Manheim Central 2-0 going to Susquehanna Township 0-2. The Barons coming off a 14-0 win over Hempfield. Susquehanna Township coming off a 52-14 loss to Milton Hershey. I'm going Barons.
Barons, to borrow from the Blues Brothers, are on a mission from God. Manheim Central.
Manheim Central's given up 85 rushing yards in 8 quarters.
That's the key. That's the thing that makes you think maybe they're really back.
They're tough. They're very good, and they will win here. Central.
All right, York Tech 0-2 going to Northern Lebanon 1-1. York Tech coming off a 48-0 loss to Octorara. Northern Lebanon coming off a 47-6 loss to Hamburg. So both teams lost big last week, but I liked what Northern Lebanon obviously showed in week 1 there, and York Tech has kind of been a long struggling program. So I'm going to go Vikings here, picking up their second win.
Yeah, I like the Vikings too a little. I mean, this is a game that it feels like they should be able to handle, and they're at home. Nice road trip for Yorkville Tech, by the way, to Frederick.
Yeah. I covered Yorkville Tech on Saturday. I got to see them play Octorara. That's the second time I've been to York Tech. very nice complex.
Oh, wow.
Appreciate the hospitality there, gang.
You still have a grass field over there?
Say again?
Grass field over there still?
Over there, but it was
All
really nice, and the press box was really cool. I'll say what I said last week. York Tech is now 1-30 in its last 31 games. I will take Northern Lebanon.
All right. Kutztown 1-1 going to Pequea Valley 0-1. The Braves, as we know, did not play week 1 because their opponent had COVID issues. They came out week 2, season opener, and lost 41-20 to Hanover. Kutztown 1-1 overall, coming off a 46-24 loss to Nativity BVM. I'm going Kutztown.
Yeah, me too. Not a whole lot to go on here, but Kutztown seems at least competitive. I don't want to suggest Pequea isn't, but I like Kutztown a little.
Week 1, Kutztown beat Shenandoah Valley to snap a 35-game losing streak. Pequea Valley lost last week, yes, but Peyton Temple had a great debut behind center, 207 passing yards and 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers, and they had a kid rush for 90 yards. I'll take the Braves at home on the turf in Kinzers.
Oh,
Here's a coin flip game. Both teams coming in looking for their first win. Anvil 0-1 going to Littlestown 0-2. Littlestown coming off a 14-13 loss to Susquehanna. Anvil coming off a season opening loss 38-14 to Fleetwood. I'm going Littlestown.
Yeah, me too. Another one of these, throw up your hands, but I like Littlestown a little.
Rematch of the 2019 District 3 playoffs. Anvil won that game 39-12.
How about that, Nugget?
Man, long bus ride, pack snacks, enjoy that trip. But AC's getting healthy, and I think they win. Dutchman.
All right. Next matchup between a pair of 1-1 teams. Hanover going to Columbia. Hanover coming off that 41-20 win over Pequea Valley. Columbia coming off a 28-18 loss to Donegal. Columbia is another of those teams that impressed us week 1 and then kind of dropped the ball in week 2. They had that big week 1 win over Eastern York, and then they come back against Donegal team that had lost week 1 to E-Town, and Donegal beats them 28-18. Really surprised by that. But by the way, Robert Footman, again, outstanding in week 2, 27 of 52, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 pick, the quarterback for Columbia. His favorite reception through 2 weeks has been Artie Poindexter, 19 catches, 203 yards, 10.7 average, 2 touchdowns. I like Columbia here, and possibly by 5 touchdowns.
Whoa!
Wow! Start the running clock now.
Yeah.
The one thing I think I've said on this show so far this year that was even arguably prescient was that maybe Columbia would struggle a little bit with the way Donegal plays, with their style of play, with the wing tee and all that. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened. Even if Donegal didn't score 50 points, move the chains, control the clock, all that kind of thing. So I think Columbia bounces back from that, and well done by Donegal to bounce back from week 1 for them. I like Columbia a little. Yep.
Columbia dropped 15 passes last week against Donegal. 15 drop balls. That's a lot. Footman, 638 passing yards, leads the league. 7 touchdown passes, leads the league. Tied at home, rolls.
All right. Pottstown 0-2, going to Octorara 2-0. Going Braves.
Yeah, Octorara, that seems like a prohibitive favorite there. They're very solid.
Once again, no LMP jinx with the week 2 feature. Mike Trainer, 5 carries, 158, 3 touchdowns. He was unbelievable. Pottstown has a 7-game losing streak, and they're not playing very well. Octorara wins again and goes to 3-0.
Oh.
This next one is kind of a coin flip game for me. Elco 1-0 going to Conrad Weiser 1-1. Conrad Weiser coming off a 38-7 win over Muhlenberg. Elco coming off a 21-6 win over Schuylkill Valley. The Raiders came into this year kind of question mark at quarterback. They've proven to be able to at least kind of have a formidable foe there, or at least leader, I should say. But I like the pieces that Conrad Weiser have. I think we talked about them a couple of weeks back when they played Calico in the season opener, and they have a lot of talented pieces, some of them D1 prospects. So for that reason, I'm going to go Conrad Weiser.
Agreed. I love Elco's program, but this is a step up. Conrad Weiser's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Agreed. Elco, Cole Thomas, good debut at behind center at quarterback, 122 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was just fine.
And by the way, Braden Bohannon led Lebanon Valley College to a win over F&M as their starting quarterback as a true freshman. Just saying.
Yeah, and not surprised in the least. Not surprised in the least. Weiser is really good. Yeah, Logan Klitsch, the quarterback, is tough up top. These are both 4A teams, so they could play maybe in November. We'll see. Keep your fingers crossed. But I'll go Scouts at home. Wiser.
All right, Archbishop Carroll 0-2, going to Lancaster Catholic 1-1. The Crusaders picked up their first win of the year last week, 14-7 over DeLone Catholic, and Archbishop Carroll is coming off a 42-0 loss to Rock Creek Christian Academy. I couldn't tell you a thing about Rock Creek, and kind of for that reason, I'll go Catholic here. I don't feel great about it, but to kind of prove their mettle a little bit last week, maybe they win another close one.
I like what Catholic did last week. I thought that was a good. That wasn't an automatic by any means. That was a good win. And Archbishop Carroll looks like there's a lot of schools in Philly that aren't anywhere on the same solar system in football as they are in basketball. This is one of those. I like the Crusaders here.
Yeah, this would be a heck of a basketball game. A boys' basketball. This would be a great basketball game. Oh, unbelievable. Rock Creek Christian is in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Oh, by the way.
All right.
Way to be, Rise.
You know, I dive into these teams and these games every week like you wouldn't believe, and I could find next to nothing on Archbishop Carroll. They were 2-3 last year. 2 years ago, they had 7 wins and went to the District 12 playoffs, but they're struggling a ton here at 0-2. I'll go Lancaster Catholic at home. Great win. I picked alone last week, but Catholic played really good, and I think they have some things figured out.
Here's a nugget from our buddy Kevin Freeman. The Crusaders defense last week allowed only 6 DeLone Catholic plays that produced double digits in yards gained, the longest going for 19 yards. So they had a good defensive effort. We're going Catholic across the board. Yeah. Daniel Boone 0-2, going to Garden Spot 0-2. So the winner of this will pick up their first dub of the year. Daniel Boone coming off a 19-10 loss to Twin Valley. Garden Spot coming off a 38-23 loss to Conestoga Valley, game in which they were leading at halftime. And they also had that tough overtime loss in week 1 to Twin Valley, we should note. And by the way, since Jeff, you mentioned the no L&P jinx, you're writing about the kicker this week. And so far, your features have led to the teams playing well the next week. So all those reasons, I'll add them up. I'll go Garden Spot.
Yeah, I'll go Garden Spot too. I mean, I think they've been competitive. They certainly we think CV is going to be pretty good, and they competed with them. You know, we're not going on a lot here, but I'll go with great kicker. How about that great kicker?
Exactly. Okay, Boone's starting quarterback, who was like all Burks last year, snapped his ankle in the first game in the first quarter. So he's out for the year. So tough break for Boone.
I forgot about
0-2. Right. Yeah, and they were playing Wyomissing, which would have been a tricky game anyway. But then your all-star quarterback, you know, snaps his ankle. So tough start for them. Spot, I was there this week. They're the most heartbreaker team here in the LL so far. They lose an OT, and they cough up the third quarter lead and lose to CB last week. We got to mention, John, first turf surface game.
Oh, that's right.
Stadium.
Yeah.
Yes. I was there the other day, and they were doing some reps out on the new turf field. I walked around on a little bit. Looks great, and they really needed it there, and it looks awesome. So enjoy that. And Walker Martin is the kid, by the way. He's the kicker. He kicked 5 field goals against Twin Valley in week 1 to tie the PIAA record. So look for that story later in the week. I think Garden Spot wins here. I think they've scored a lot of points. I think the defense gets tough, and they win their home opener on the new turf.
5 field goals is a lot, but are you surprised that it's an all-time PIAA record? Nobody's ever kicked more?
And
it's hard to say with kicking records because it's kind of iffy on before year 2000 as far as kicking
that's true. That's true. Anyway,
the guy who had it was from Peters Township in 1994. Had 5. And hey, and Martin missed a kick in that game, so he could have had 6.
Ow!
But the wind pushed it. Apparently, it was that windy night in week 1. But yeah, he made 5, including a 47-yarder, which is 1 yard short of the school record. So fascinating kid. He's really neat. So look for that story Thursday, please.
All right. Donegal 1-1 going to Eastern York 0-2, trip across the Susquehanna River for the Indians, who are coming off a 28-18 win over Columbia last week. Meanwhile, Eastern York coming off a 40-19 loss to Fairfield. Donegal, another team that was kind of a question mark in week 1 with that 14-7 loss to Elizabethtown. They come back and beat a good Columbia team 28-18. And I like the Indians. I did their season preview coming into the year. They had a lot of nice pieces back, and they were confident in their line and running the ball, and seem to have figured out in week 2 here. For that reason, I'll go Donegal.
I think it's possible that this is a team that maybe certainly we didn't dismiss them. I'm not saying that, but based on week 1, maybe put them back on the back burner a little bit. That maybe is better than we've been thinking. Maybe this year's Conestoga Valley, maybe like was last year. I like Donegal.
Yeah, well said, because I do this every year. I sit there and I look at Donegal, and where do I pick them?
Yeah.
And I never pick them to win or finish second even. And then they have 6 wins or 7 wins at the end of the year.
They're hard to play against. They're hard.
Nobody sees it. Nobody
Yeah.
sees it. And you can practice it for 4 days. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But it's really tough. Landon Bachman had his breakthrough game last week, 3 touchdown passes. And this Noah Rohr kid at linebacker has been lights out. So I'll go Indians over Golden Knights.
All right, we're all going Donegal. Here's another coin flip game, at least for me. Lower Dauphin 0-1 going to Elizabethtown 1-1. Last week, Lower Dauphin lost to Greencastle Antrim 41-7, and Elizabethtown lost in overtime to Mechanicsburg 14-7. I'll go Bears, but I don't feel great about it.
Ditto.
Nice. What happened to Lower Dauphin? Weren't they just winning like district titles like 3 years ago?
They really are in football in the last 10, 15 years. They've really been up and down. There was a time 25 years ago, 30 years ago, when you thought Lower Dauphin was almost going to become another Cumberland Valley in a lot of sports. That they looked like that kind of an athletic program. It really hasn't happened.
Didn't they beat Manheim on some kind of crazy buzzer beater in the district at Hershey?
They went to the 6A state final. Well, it would have been 4A back then.
Okay.
Early 2000s or in the 90s. Anyway.
Rings a bell.
They're kind of a mystery. Lower Dauphin is kind of a mystery.
Yeah, I'm going to go E-Town. Their defense has been really good. I mean, they've only given up 21 points here in 2 games. They're going to get some offense. Hello, Bears. I said in August, you guys have a ton of offense and a lot of firepower.
Rines, come on, Rines.
Well, I can't go to practice and, get in there, but they need some up. Get the O out this week, Bears. Tell me something. I'll go E-Town at home.
I'd pay to see that. All right, I'll go to E-Town. Muhlenberg 0-2 going to Solanco 1-1. Muhlenberg coming off that 38-7 loss to Conrad Weiser. Here's a head scratcher. Solanco won in week 1. I thought for sure they'd win big in week 2. Instead, they lose big 33-15 to Kennerdale. They did have 250 plus rushing yards last week. However, they weren't able to really stop much on the other side of the ball. I'll go Mules, but I don't feel good about it.
When we were talking about last week, this was if Township was Exhibit A, Solanco was Exhibit B, and I noticed that rushing number. I think they bounce back. I like Solanco, and Muhlenberg is a beatable opponent. I like the Mules here.
Mules.
No, I can't like the Mules. They're all Mules.
They're all Mules.
Solanco.
Is this the Mule Bowl?
Let's call it.
Short but sweet. Muhlenberg's lost 19 games in a row. Make it 20. Solanco.
All right. Governor Mifflin, 2-0, going to Calico, 1-1. Governor Mifflin coming off a 42-14 win over Wilson last week. Calico coming off a 33-27 loss to Cedar Cliff. We've talked about him. Nick Singleton, 2 weeks in a row, make it 3 weeks in a row now. And there's a good running back on the other side too. So good running back matchup here on both sides. However, the one that does it in for me, not only Singleton, but the fact that the Eagles are giving up 395 yards a game spells kind of a big game again out of Singleton. I'll go Governor Mifflin.
Governor Mifflin might be one of the best teams in the state, regardless of class. Governor Mifflin.
John, you threw the stat out there. the worst defense in the LL League through 2 weeks is Calico, which is just blew my mind when I looked at that stat. They're giving up 3.
Some of that is the opposition. Some of that is the schedule, but
Oh,
not
absolutely.
all. Not all.
Absolutely. Tough draw for Calico, especially having lost last week. I was over at CD East in Harrisburg. When I closed my laptop when the Warwick game was over, Calico was winning. I went to the field. I did an interview. I got to my car, and when I got to my car and flipped my laptop back open, Calico had lost. And I was like, what just happened here? So I thought they kind of needed that game for Mo going into Mifflin a little bit. Because Mifflin,
that was one of those games from last weekend that I thought was
a little bit. And I know Cedar Cliff's very good, and they're undefeated here. But, yeah, Barassa's the kid you mentioned, John. Great matchup here. Barassa's the leading rusher in the LL League. Singleton's at 410 and 7 touchdowns in 2 games.
And he didn't go nuts last week. The first week,
130 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, the first week he went bananas. And you know, he's considered to be one of the best running backs in the country.
Yep.
A top 5, maybe top 3. And he's going to Penn State, and he's a beast.
He is a beast. I'll go Governor Mifflin here.
All right. Lebanon 0-2, going to McCaskey 1-1. Last week, McCaskey fell to a really good York High team, 54-7. Meanwhile, Lebanon fell to Reading 42-22. I like McCaskey in this one just for what they showed us in week 1, snapping that losing streak. I think they get back on track here this week. Although, I guess we should note that the Cedars are improving a little bit from week to week. How about it?
Well, maybe they're improving a little bit. I'm not sure that they haven't kind of imploded. I heard that game had a messy end last week, and I like McCaskey. I'm talking about Lebanon's game with Reading last week. I like McCaskey.
I did not hear that story. I don't know who your source is, Mike, but okay. I have Lebanon circled. I like their weapons. I think they're starting to figure some things out. They had 3 kids run the ball a ton last week and do some things and score and get in the end zone. So I think they have a lot of mo. And the last couple of years, and I hate to say it, but when McCaskey has lost, they haven't snapped back and come back out fighting the next one. And I know it's awfully early in the season to be saying that. I apologize, Tornado Alley, but coin toss. This is the last game I had to circle this week, and I had to sleep on it. I'll go Cedars. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of coin tosses, Northeastern 1-1 going to Penn Manor 1-1. The Comets had that big week 1 win over Conestoga Valley in a comeback effort. Then they come out in week 2, 31-0, lost to Lampeter Strasburg. Meanwhile, Northeastern picked up their first win of the year last week, 16-14 over Redland. Me being a Penn Manor alum, I'd have to go back in the record books, but I don't know if Northeastern has ever played Penn Manor. I don't know if they've ever played at Penn Manor. I know, half dozen years ago, Northeastern was one of the best teams in the York Adams League and made a run in districts. So it was kind of history making, and they've kind of been good to great the last couple seasons after that. But I couldn't tell you much beyond that. I'll take Penn Manor. I think they get a bounce back effort after getting smacked around in week 2. I think they wake up and pick up their second win of the year on Friday night.
I agree. I like Penn Manor a little. I think they bounce from what I don't think they're as bad as we might suspect. I think they're in a tough spot with their schedule and everything, but not in this spot on their schedule. I don't think, especially at home.
Yep, agreed. I think Penn Manor reverts to its week 1 self and kind of finds it again. And Eli Warfel, the quarterback, has been pretty good. He's at 150 plus rushing yards. So they're moving the ball, and I know they got shut out by LS, but I think Penn Manor snaps back. I'll go Comets.
All right, final game of the week. Wilson 1-1 going to Exeter 1-1. The Bulldogs coming off a 42-14 loss to Governor Mifflin. Exeter coming off a 56-8 win over Boyertown. And Exeter, by the way, had a narrow week 1 loss to a good Central York team, 35-28 for whatever that's worth. I like Bulldogs in a really big bounce back effort here. I'll go Wilson.
I think this is a tough call. I really do. I mean, you know, Governor Mifflin, we have to almost accept that Governor Mifflin's on another level right now and almost throw that out. I go Wilson a little bit.
Yeah, I'll go Bulldogs. Tricky game. tricky game. Exeter took Central York to the wire before getting a blowout win last week. Eagles are tough. They're good. They're tricky. But Wilson's ticked off now. They're ticked. I mean, they had the Mifflin game circled since last year, and they got pushed around. So Wilson's
It
ticked.
really did. You look at that box score. That game was not even as close as
No, and it was 35-0. It was 35-0 before Wilson got a couple scores. But yeah, they're going to play with chips on their shoulders now. Wilson might not lose for a while, and I know they have Central coming up, but I think Wilson starts its role here. Bulldogs.
All right. I guess this will be the show notes portion of the section, because as you guys were talking, you had mentioned Lower Dauphin earlier and what they did back in the day in districts. I was going back in the archives and looking. Back in 1995, Class 4A state championship game, Lower Dauphin reached that, lost to Penn Hills 7-3. They also competed in the district final in 2002. They won that. And then they lost to Manheim Central in the 2003 district final. I believe that is their last appearance, would have been 03 in a district final game, was Lower Dauphin. So take
that
that
year
for
that
whatever
they
that's
went to
worth.
the state final, I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, the district final was Lower Dauphin against Cedar Crest. Falcons v. Falcons. Yeah.
Wow.
That was near the
And,
end of Norby Dance's illustrious career. If I'm remembering it correctly. I remember many things incorrectly.
Wow. I'm going to regret my Cedar Crest pick this week, so I'll apologize in advance.
All right. Unfortunately, I'm trying to find that Lower Dauphin Cedar Crest thing, and I can't at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 1995, I found it. Do you want to guess what was the final score?
14-13.
No, they scored. They lit them up a little bit. They
lit
36-19. Yeah.
Anyways, gentlemen, where are you going to be at this Friday?
I will be at Susquehanna Township to see the highly regarded Barons of Manheim Central against the less highly regarded Indians of Susquehanna Township.
Friday night, gone to the stomping grounds, LS at CV in the Lampeter Bowl, and then Saturday night I'm going back to Harrisburg, second week in a row, 6 o'clock kick, Manheim Township, Central Dauphin at Landis Field. See you there.
All right, and I'll be covering my first football game of the season, as I've been out the last 2 weeks with a baby that almost came on week 1 on Football Friday, but on paternity leave this last week or so. With that in mind, Hanover at Columbia, I'll be covering that one. It's kind of in my backyard. So staying close to home. Again, I think Columbia wins that and perhaps has a running clock by the second half, but we'll see about that. Any last parting words from either of you gentlemen? Any last nuggets or notes that we need to throw in here?
Yeah.
I'm just really interested in seeing how some of these teams bounce back.
Yeah.
I think last week I was really surprised at last week, but lots of things can change and I think will change. And I'm really kind of interested to see what happens Friday night.
You know, I'd like to take a nap because 21 games this week is way too many. 20 on Friday night.
That's a
I
lot.
could give you a newborn and a 2-year-old and
yeah,
probably
you
feel
got
about the
on
same.
top.
So.
Oh my gosh. No, these non-league games have been killers this year with these schedules.
Yeah. What do we have? One more week of this, and then
week 4 is non-league, and then week 5 is the crossover. So there'll be 12 games in week 5.
I remember back in the day when it was week 4 started the league schedule. Anyways,
bear in mind what's happening next year, guys.
Yes,
I'm trying not to think about it.
All right. Well, hey, that does it for week 3 of the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. If you need any further news, notes, LL Football, go to the football page on Lancaster Online. Pick up a copy of Saturday and Sunday's paper for all the game stories from Friday, box scores, etc. And feel free to hit us up on Twitter. We'll be out at all those games. All right. For Mike Gross, Jeff Reiner, I'm John Walk. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next week.